There used to be a graying tower alone on the sea. You became the light on the dark side of me. Love remains a drug that's the high and not the pill. But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. And now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. There is so much a man can tell me, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain, baby. To me you're like a grown addiction that I can't deny. Won't you tell me, is that healthy, baby? But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? Baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. There is so much a man can tell me, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain. To me you're like a grown addiction that I can't deny. Now won't you tell me, is that healthy, baby? But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light that you shine can't be seen? Baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. Yes, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. And now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. Now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the
Good morning, everybody. We are live. It is October the 13th. I hope it is. I mean, I hope my dates aren't horribly wrong. So let me check my calendar. Yes, it's October the 13th. It's Larsen Live. I am back from my horrifying 1 week absence and still continuing the train of improper scheduling. Yes, I had a long and difficult fight against the shingles, and I won. Hence the title of the stream, Two-Faced Larsen, because even though I'm recovered, let's just say my movie career ain't going to be taken off anytime soon. I got a nice little bit of scarring on the left side of my face. I am indeed a Two-Face, hence me playing Kiss from a Rose by Seal, because by God, it's 2024, almost 2025, and I'm referencing goddamn Batman Forever, because of course I am. It's like, you know what my life needed? It needed delicately sculpted latex bat nipples. My life needed that in abundance. Saw that movie in theaters. Don't judge me, I was 4. I also saw Batman and Robin in theaters. And you also can't judge me for that, even though you probably should. I'm not gonna lie though, I should do get more entertainment out of Batman and Robin rather than Batman Forever, because it's just so delightfully terrible. I just can't help but enjoy it. Anyway, Ponythroat is correct. That was Kiss from a Rose by Seal, my favorite pinup head R&B singer. Cockney Eastwood says, "Good morning. What time is it where you are? It's 5:15 here in London. It is noon here." Okay. Robert Diaz, aka Mike Honcho Dioramas, says, "Glad to hear you kick the ass of the shingles." Yes, I was on quite an abundance of medication for quite a while. And what really sucked is that I couldn't even sleep in the bed with my wife, as Homer Simpson would put it. I'd sleep on an air mattress in the middle of the living room. I basically slept most of the time and, just absolutely plowed myself full of meds. If you hear a bit of scuffling in the back, that's my beautiful wife and our lovely dog, gadding about doing their thing. Ponythroat says, "My ankles hurt. I spent a lot of time walking up an 11th century castle staircase, which literally have stairs designed to be as treacherous and tiring as possible." I'm curious as to where you're encountering castles from the first millennium, sir, but I am genuinely intrigued. Cockney Eastwood says, "Do you get joint pain with it?" When I got shingles, it hurt down to my bones. I'm a diabetic, though. That might have been part of it. No joint pain. I did have a tremendous amount of inner ear pain, though. Like, my left ear was really a lot of pain, kind of in the inner ear, even going down to the jaw. And also my left eye, too. I had to take these prescription eye drops, or else I could have gone blind. And I cannot sanction that buffoonery, as Tommy Lee Jones would put it. Anyway, yeah, let's talk about what's going on in my life. Tomorrow is, of course, Columbus Day, and the kids will not be going to school. I have to go to school because of professional development. If you don't know what professional development is, it's a bunch of meaningless horseshit. You learn absolutely nothing that is professional nor developing. But by God, we have to go anyway. You want to know what summarizes professional development to me? There's a bit from, just speaking of 90s child references, Robert Diaz says, "I can make more Kung Fail videos." Yes, eventually. There's a lot of things I want to do, not much time to do them. I will tell you, though, once I get my tenure at school, I'm going to be doing a lot more videos, because at that point I can officially stop trying. But yes, in all seriousness, speaking of 90s childishness, there's a bit from Rocco's Modern Life that really just embodies professional development to me. It's they go inside the Conglomerate Corporation. They're in a corporate meeting, and it's literally just a bunch of guys in suits and ties, like just monotonously playing the name game. Burns, fee, fi, fo, ferns, Burns. Yeah, that's basically what professional development is. It sucks, and I hate it. But yeah, so let's get to the news, such as it is. Actually, let's stick on teaching for a second. Just this morning, as I was eating breakfast, I made some nice waffles. I showed my wife a tweet on the Twitters in which a teacher, I presume he's some kind of college professor, he talked about how basically his class was too hard and a bunch of girls decided to uh, accuse him of sexual harassment because his class was too hard. Your homework is too difficult, sir. That's like touching my no-no square. I don't understand this logic. I hate everybody. Cockney Eastwood says Rocco's Modern Life was one of his cartoons as a youngster. Yeah, it's good stuff. I wish I could find that particular clip I was talking about. Like whenever I'm in a meaningless bullshit meeting at work, that's always what I think of. Like that scene of like a bunch of guys in suits just monotonously playing the name game. Ponythroat says the castle was in a city called Nuke Asshole. Are you in fact dreaming about doing this, sir? I'm not aware of this place called Nuke Asshole. But anyway, yeah, speaking of Columbus Day, the usual political discourses on Twitter about Christopher Columbus. Dare I say, it's a bit annoying having to see this crap every year. You know what's also funny is, remember how I talked a while ago about how the Squamish people of Canada got their land back, now they're building high-rises? Yes, people are really, really angry about this. People are just absolutely furious at the idea that, like, brown people might be making money and trying to integrate in, modern society. Now, that doesn't fit my extremely rigid definition of indigeneity. So I guess indigeneity is when you hey hoya around the fire. I don't know. I hate these people so much. Not the Squamish people, the Torontonian shitlibs who have some NIMBY bullshit justification reason for why they hate construction. Robert Diaz says, I have to attend worthless sexual harassment training every year. It's pure comedy gold. Yeah, it's not great. I mean, I had a lot of problems when I was doing like, grunt manual labor. Like I did furniture moving, I did construction, and I had a lot of beefs with those jobs, but at least I didn't have to go through shit like this, which is nice, I suppose. Ponythroat clarifies he's talking about Newcastle. He has PIV tires to prove. Yes, we got to prove those PIV tires, sir. But yes, the whole Squamish thing annoys me, as does the, periodic discourse about how the Sami of Finland are the only indigenous people in Europe. Because I guess Europeans are not indigenous to Europe. I'm genuinely curious as to what would happen if you were to ask these people, how do you define indigeneity? Because I'm pretty damn sure that their definition of it is like living in mud huts and wearing funny hats. If someone can prove otherwise, please show me. In conclusion, Canada is not a serious country. Not to say America is, because it's not. It's everything's going down the crapper. Speaking of American follies, okay, as we know, Hurricane Milton struck. The Southland is ravaged, as it tends to be, and people are a mite upset about the government response to this. Not to be outdone by the government, the local people are bringing in their own helicopters and backhoes and such, and the government, in response to this, is threatening them with arrest. People are really upset at people running their own rescue operations. Personally, I think that's something good. That shows that even as America goes down the shitter government-wise, the common people are still good. But apparently, you need a license for your rescue operation. Because by God, you're supposed to die rather than show up the government's incompetence. Also related, I've seen several articles talking about how, those clean-cut rescue men, they're white supremacists, allegedly. I mean, yeah, you could rescue me, but, I gotta know if your politics are right, sir. Boy, I hate to say the purpose of a system is what it does, but the purpose of this system is what it's doing right now. Okay. Ponythroat says Torontoans be shocked and appalled that the natives built a multi-story structure that was not a casino. Yes, they are very shocked at that. I'm genuinely curious as to if they thought they were going to build like long houses and like teepees and stuff. Dare I say, people don't want to live that lifestyle anymore. Robert Diaz, referring to the flooding thing, says it's political retaliation because it's happening in Florida, perhaps. One second, please. Just got a text message, and it's not a major issue. Anyway, yes. As usual, there's the usual mudslinging going on about how such and such people deserve it because they don't vote the way I vote. I really hate that attitude, and I wish people would stop doing it. They are your fellow citizens, and you ought to treat them as such. But we can't do that apparently. Sorry if you heard some whistling. That's our wonderful dog being called. Okay, moving on from the Florida thing. Actually, yeah, let's go on to more flooding news. There actually is several cases of nautical follies that occurred. Nautical nonsense is not something I wish. Yeah, by the way, speaking of going from Florida to Tennessee, the Tennessee National Guard Task Force deploys to Israel. Not, their state that's being flooded, but, obviously this is more important. Dare I say, the people who run America really, really hate the American people, and they view them as just a tax farm and a cannon fodder source. That would be completely ridiculous. Boy, I'm almost hoping that the food and the power shuts off so maybe we can affect some change in this country. Anyway, moving on to different nautical follies. We're going to go out of America and go to several other countries which have nautical nonsense going on. And it's not great. Okay, so in New Zealand, there was they had the first lesbian naval captain who was in command of the HMNZS, Her Majesty's New Zealand sailing ship Manawanui, because everything has to have Maori names, apparently. Hard grounding, fire, and a broken Royal New Zealand Navy. Yes, the stunning and brave lesbian captain sunk the boat immediately. The first New Zealand Navy ship to be sunk since World War II. Okay, so some people were a bit concerned about how this could happen. So saith John Sigma Conrad V. I interviewed a female veteran who served as an officer on American Navy ships. She offered an intriguing perspective I never considered before. She said it took men centuries and thousands of shipwrecks to master commanding ships. We should expect some losses as women who think differently learn the ropes and gain experience. I mean, I suppose. But do we really want people who think that much differently commanding billion-dollar equipment? Someone put it even better than I ever could. Captain, where do we dock? I don't know, you choose. Rations are low, we need to dock immediately. I'm not hungry, why don't you know what I'm thinking? You know, if you really loved England, you would know what sail you should be raising right now. Stereotypically sexist? Perhaps. Is it amusing to me? Yes. I don't know, isn't there some kind of like training boat or something you could do? I mean, if a civilian wants to learn how to sail, they have like those little tubs that they sail on. They're basically bathtubs with sails. They're for training. I'm sure they have something similar. Bring up like the Bob Semple battleship or something, New Zealand. If we bring back Bob Semple, I mean, old Bobo could have designed like a training boat or something. Pointer says this is technically an example of a woman trying to drive. I mean, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, a little bit. Robert Diaz says when they said dock, she thought they meant space docking. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I know fuck all about sailing because I don't. But, yeah, this is not a good look, New Zealand. Speaking of naval follies, we're going to leave New Zealand, we're going to leave Oceania, and go to Denmark. Speaking of one navy to another, Danish naval forces were attacked by Nigerian pirates. They fought them off successfully. One of the pirates was shot in the leg. So Denmark did the rational thing. Said pirate came to Denmark, got an amputation, was given a prosthetic leg, and is now basically just sitting around mooching off bennies as the local government tries to get him a job. Won't somebody please think of the Somalian pirates? I'm sorry, the Nigerian pirates. How will anybody ever... Denmark, you know, the core constituency of Denmark is really the Nigerian pirates, of course. Boy, people are stupid. Cockney Eastwood says, did you ever see the James Cameron documentary, The Sub? I know of it. I have not seen it. I mean, considering what's happened in the last year or so, homemade subs tend to not be very good. I guess James Cameron is a little bit better for it. Looking at some comments here, Ponythroat says, the city I went to with the castle also has the world's first steam-powered vessel on this museum, the Turbinia. Robert Diaz says that man should be tried for piracy. Well, I mean, a sane country that doesn't hate itself would do such a thing, but, you know, Denmark is not that anymore, and the United States isn't either, so can't really judge them too much. Ah, Turbinia, the ocean greyhound. All right, moving on. Let's leave behind the nautical nonsense for a bit. Let's see what we got here. We can talk some politics. We can talk about something called the Dino Hole, which I didn't know what it was for a second, but now I do know. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about politics for a bit. Okay, so a video has gone a bit viral in which former New York Governor David Paterson, a blind man, was beaten to a pulp and stomped out on a street in Manhattan, along with his stepson. Who committed it? Oh, it's the usual suspects. It's the baby-faced assassins. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How could this be? Did the school not have midnight basketball? I don't know how this happened. Hey, Cockney Eastwood says, I should watch that James Cameron documentary. Biff Slankovich says, hello. Hello, sir. Yes, he just came in to talk about Governor David Paterson being beaten to a bloody pulp. He's a blind man, and he got stomped out. There must not have been enough, after-school programs for, these kids, so just got to go beat the shit out of blind people. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound like mean or anything, but as somebody who has been poor, I can safely say there's no amount of poverty I could have suffered that would have made me beat the shit out of a blind man. To be quite honest, people who are willing to do such a thing probably can't be fixed, and they shouldn't be fixed. People. Oh, those socioeconomic factors force these brappies to beat the crap out of two people on the street. Somebody please stop the socioeconomics. Think of the carnage. Think of the children, please. Ponythroat says Daredevil, the realistic version. Robert Diaz says call them the future scholars. Yes, the future astronauts clearly were the ones doing this. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, there we go. Cockney Eastwood says they're the same over here with the knife crime in London. Yeah, I mean, I can't really judge too much since America's going down the shitter, but I've seen some bad things going on in, the UK. I saw a bunch of, future scholars like having like a swinging like machete brawl in the streets, which I don't think that was happening too much, like not even 20 years ago. Yes, if we just make a little more money for the school programs, we'll get them into space sooner or later. Robert Diaz says London is the stabbing, beating, mugging capital on a per capita basis. I don't know about that. I mean, there's places in America that are pretty bad, but it's not good. It's like people always talk about like how shitty America is, and it is, but it's like, where's better? Like, where are we gonna run to? Doesn't seem like any place is doing that much better at the moment. So dare I say we should stop running and we should dig in and actually try to affect some change. But yeah, I've been poor. I've literally had to eat out of dumpsters. But there's no amount of poverty where I would have like beaten a blind man into the hospital. Just saying. Anyway, let's let's move on from this. Let's talk about something much more pleasant. Dinosaur anuses. From Live Science, the first ever preserved dinosaur butthole has been found, says paleontologists. I really hate how they're using like colloquial terms for this. You could have said like anus or cloaca or something. In fact, I think cloaca would have been the right term. Paleontologists say it is perfect and unique. It was a multi-purpose hole. Yes, the cloaca is a kind of one-size-fits-all orifice for our avian and reptilian friends. Basically, it poops, technically urinates, and it's used for reproduction. So, yeah, that's been found by paleontologists. Life found a way, and it's multi-purpose. Yes, called it. Scientifically known as the cloaca vent for pooping, peeing, breeding, and egg laying. Okay. It's so well preserved, in fact, that researchers could see the remnants of two small bulges, which might have housed musk glands, similar to modern day alligators and crocodiles. The anatomy is quite unique, says lead researcher Jacob Vinter from the University of Bristol. It's not quite the same thing as a bird, a little bit more like a crocodile, but it's its own cloaca, shaped in its own unique way. The well-preserved booty hole, and yes, that is the actual terminology they use. I hate this so much. Belongs to the dinosaur Psittacosaurus, a bristly-tailed Labrador-sized horned dinosaur, a smaller relative of the Triceratops. Okay, no reproductive soft tissues like a penis were preserved. They don't know if this is male or female. they don't know whether it had, copulatory coital sex or cloacal kissing as birds do. Okay, and it goes on. It just goes on like this. Then there was also some controversy about Mr. Vinter, Dr. Vinter, said that the researchers used his cloacal vent data without his permission. There were misunderstandings and miscommunications on both sides, says Phil Bell from the University of New England in Australia. Okay, whatever. For the love of God, like, why are we using these colloquial goddamn slang terms for the anus? Hey, come on, scientists. Like, can we, like, I know scientists always say, like, oh, we want to be, like, down with the people, and, we don't want to be, like, these intimidating, like, eggheads. Maybe you should start being intimidating eggheads, because this is goddamn cringeworthy. Okay. Pointy Throat says it's actually not in the top 5 in the UK. Bradford is number 1. Cockney Eastwood says, was the T-Rex a reptile or was it bird-like? Well, I mean, they did say it had feathers, so probably a little more bird-like. Pointy Throat says, do not ever refer to a dino hole as one size fits all. Well, I mean, this hole was made for me. The mystery of Anigara fault. Whatever it is. If it's like a crocodile, it's probably copulative. It seems more likely. Anyway, cloacas are very important because it allows them to have hard shelled eggs, which is much more of a development over these soft shelled amphibious eggs. So, good for the dinos. Let's never speak of this again. Well, I'm sure if Darren and Sarton or whoever make a new edition of Fatal, they can put in this new cloacal data. And speaking of really, really grotesque mating, and also from the UK, actually, a Hazel Appleyard asks, can I ask a question genuinely? I don't know the answer. Is it more of an American thing? It's not an issue I see in the UK. What is it about women having, specifically single mothers with mixed race babies that makes men dip immediately? Seems like a common thing I see here. Like, this isn't a gotcha question or anything. I'm truly wondering why it is. Is it just about the skin tone, right? Is it because you worry people will see you together and assume that she cheated on you and you're raising someone else's kid? Yeah, it's a mystery. I mean, not to get into the racial issue, but I can safely say that men in general have no desire to raise another man's child. I guess if it's has anything to do with race, it's just because it's a little more obvious that it wasn't his kid. I mean, personally speaking, before I met my lovely wife, I've told you this story before. I dated a lady who, seemed okay at the start. And it's like, oh, by the way, Lars, I'm 7 years older than you thought, and I have a kid. Boing! And that was over pretty quick. Yeah, that, so just personally from my own experience, has nothing to do with the race. It has everything to do with the sort of, cuckoo nest thing. Ponythroat says, hey, you're going to roll for asshole circumference. Well, I mean, you have to do that, sir, if you're going to fend off those, like, gay rapist ogres. Yeah, periodically, I'll still open up that review of the Fatal game from RPG.net. Like, it's still really funny how they just wrote, like, pages and pages of them just shitting on this game. Ponythroat says, ain't nobody wants to raise another man's baby. Even fewer want to raise a baby. That's more obviously seeming that the stranger is a cuck for the sake of mating a woman who dies in the mud. Well, again, I don't think it's like a racial thing specifically. I just, it's not something I had to rationalize or think about. Just, Well, A, the woman lied to me about something major like that. B, just, I don't know, I don't like the thought of raising another man's kid. I don't want to sound like stereotypical or racist or anything, but I got kind of just fundamentally angry when I thought about, Sergey back in the Ukraine in his fucking tracksuit, making me raise his kid. Yeah, the woman was Russian, just FYI. And, obviously she's white, but even so, I have no desire to, like, be a cuck. Sorry if that makes me come off as rude. Oh my God, why don't men date women with children? Yeah, it's a mystery. One second, the dog is crying. I have to go help her. Yes, I know mother is in the shower right now, but I'm here. So yes, the fact that this woman had to ask this shows that even a person with, an advanced degree can be really goddamn stupid. In general, sociologists are pretty damn dumb. I legit think that, like, your average bartender could tell you more about the human condition than a sociology PhD, just from my experience. Okay, Cockney Eastwood says, I have Frank Dukes' book finally, I assume The Secret Man. As Fish, the rogue agent who kidnapped people. Wait till you read about his adventures saving the Filipino orphans from the pirates, sir. Ponythroat says, the Fatal creators made a game for the fetish for maths, a stat tables, and then added a bunch of degenerate stuff to make it more marketable. Yes, it's amazing how Fatal isn't like the greatest selling tabletop game of all time. Robert Diaz says, men don't want women with kids because we are fourth in line behind the job, the kid, and the dog. Yes. Seems like it's pretty obvious, and yet Hazel Appleyard doesn't understand. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. We have some real estate news, because that's always good, because I know you're all just itching to buy a home. Okay. Alicia, the Courtyard urbanist, asks, how do we stop the exodus of young families from American metro areas? Recent analysis shows millennial parents are fleeing their cities the cost of the aspirational house of a yard, so young people move to the suburbs. Perhaps cities can build courtyard block neighborhoods. Yeah, courtyard blocks would be pretty nice. Too bad we probably can't have those for, well, you know the reasons why. Because, I don't know, maybe Americans don't want to deal with, feral brappies, shooting up heroin in the streets and attacking them. Yeah, all these things that the shitlibs talk about would be really nice. Walkable cities would be nice. Being able to go out in the streets would be nice. Courtyards would be nice. Too bad we can't have any of those things because we have to prioritize the brappies first. We can't hurt the brappies. Mental asylums and jails make me feel bad. So, we just gotta, we just can't have anything, and then we wonder why everything sucks. Okay, one, science. Pornithro says, soft science, 50% charlatanism, 50% stating the blindingly obvious in a way that makes idiots think that they're smart. The dog is crying once again. Give me a second. Robert Diaz says people leave the cities because of the cost of living. $5 gas and $20 McDonald's meals are a real wallet killer. I mean, to be fair, you don't need to have McDonald's, or really, if you're in a city, you don't need to have gas, to be honest. I mean, when I lived in New York City, I was basically biking everywhere. I mean, it's the brappies. We prioritize the brappies, and we basically let them run rampant, and then people wonder why people don't want to live in the cities. And it's not just the fact that they're there, it's the fact that the law will protect them at all costs. I mean, I talked about this on the stream a while back. There was like some Brooklyn neighborhood where some screaming, knife-wielding derelict was like terrorizing the whole neighborhood. And everyone's like, oh, well, he's a homeless black man. He's oppressed. Like, we can't do anything to him. And I was just thinking, if this was 1920s Brooklyn, this guy would have lasted about one day before somebody took a baseball bat to him. But of course, you can't do that because such a person would be punished. Okay. But yeah, the courtyards will solve everything. Yeah, courtyards would be nice, as would 24-hour libraries. And, and clean streets and like bike lanes. All these things are really nice. But we can't have these things, and nobody wants to address why. Nobody just wants to address why. Kind of related to this, a topic I always like to talk about are the Asian Boba Liberals who simp for brappies. I hate these people a lot. There was a bit of a debate on Twitter about whether or not Asians de-assimilate. People have pointed out that first-generation Asian immigrants are very positive and pro-American. Second generations tend to be very anti-American. I would argue that they're not de-assimilating. They are, in fact, assimilating to the, upper-class, elite, progressive shitlib culture. So, in a way, they are assimilating to American culture, which, in progressive circles, largely revolves around hating and feeling sorry for yourself for being American. So, in a way, they are assimilating completely. These are, of course, the Asians who, are dimly aware. They dimly choose to acknowledge that, Chinese grandmas being punched the fuck out by brappies. But, they always manage to blame white people for it, even though it's almost always not white people. And, they're just like, oh, well, let's just have midnight basketball or just raise awareness instead of, solving the problem. Hey, Robert Diaz says Daniel Penny got punished for defending himself against a homeless man who threatened to hurt him. Yes. Yeah, the innocent Michael Jackson impersonator who pushed multiple people in front of trains. Ponythor says they stopped making street lamps with an overhang. SMH. Yeah, that's a big problem. It's the brappies. That's America's problem. It's always the brappies, and no one wants to address this. And America goes down the shitter, and, nobody wants to address it. One second, I gotta untangle the doggy here. Okay, so now let's get to the silly side of things, the pop culture and general stupidity. Okay, from Reddit Nietzsche, someone asks, should I tell my therapist that I am, in fact, the ubermensch? Hey guys, I've started to read Nietzsche and I've come to the conclusion that I am clearly the ubermensch. My therapist says I'm insane and I'm the most pretentious and insufferable being I've ever been around. But she's wrong. Should I tell them that? Yes, you should. I don't know who said it, but somebody once said a little bit of Nietzsche in the wrong hands is a very dangerous thing. I would also argue that a ubermensch wouldn't be going to a therapist in the first place, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, this I can go with the white supremacist Elder Scrolls fan that I talked about a while back. Hey, moving on to pop culture news. Let's see what we got here. Got a few things to talk about. So let me open up my things here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so first of all, bioethicist Matthew Liao says in order to fight climate change, we should genetically modify humans to not eat meat. So, instead of building nuclear power plants or anything, we should just undergo a massive government program in which we genetically engineer people to be soft and weak and not eat meat. What do you call it where, like, you think a nuclear power plant is just hubris and, like, sticking your thumb in the eye of God? But genetically modifying the entire human race is just A-okay. Almost as if a lot of the environmentalist movement is just about power instead of actually helping the environment. Like, look, I care about the environment. I happen to live in the environment. It's important to me. Why are we not building nuclear power? Yes, I know nuclear power has risks, but considering that the end result is the cleanest form of energy there is at the moment, I think we ought to be using it. I hate these mealy-mouthed little twerps who want to control everything. Pointer says Nietzsche, like most of the modernist philosophers, is tailor written for 17-year-olds. Yes. Pointer says the majority of the world's carbon emissions are from 2 countries. Yep, our good friends in the BRICS. A lot of pollution from there. Yes, I'm a big nuclear power supporter. Now, some have noted that certain strains of Lyme disease and other tick-spread illnesses can cause allergic reactions to meat. What if they start injecting people with this? Yeah, I don't care for this. Anyone else is going on here? Okay, so in movie news, Joker Folie à Deux has come out, and it's been a bit controversial. Many people feel that the second Joker film was a deliberate slap in the face to fans of the first movie because the wrong sort of people took the wrong impression from the first Joker movie. Director Todd Phillips says Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck was not the Joker. It was placed upon him, and he doesn't want to live as a fake anymore. He wants to be who he is. This led to a whole elaborate Twitter thread about Todd Phillips being placed into the steamed ham scene from The Simpsons. So saith Superintendent Chalmers. You say this film isn't about the Joker, despite the fact that it is called Joker. Oh no, I said steamed hams. Old family recipe. I pitched in as well. Well, Todd, I managed to anger the chuds, despite your blundering into a successful first movie. Good lord, what is happening in that final scene? It's the Joker from The Dark Knight. Joker from the Dark Knight, in this continuity, at this period of Bruce Wayne's childhood, localized entirely within your musical. Yes. Are you going to make a sequel? No. Ye gods, my sequel is ruined. Unless I pass off the main character as the inspiration for the Joker, not the original man. Oh, delightfully devilish, Seymour. Steamed villains. I suppose I should see the movie at some point. I know very little about it other than this and the fact that Joker apparently gets like gang raped by a bunch of prison guards. Yeah, it's really starting to seem more like it was a deliberate middle finger to, the chuds who liked the first movie. Pointer says technically it's not the cleanest. Solar and wind are cleaner. Well, yes, but in terms of, efficient large scale power, nuclear is the way to go. Solar and wind are good for like, what do you call it? They're good for like, supplementary things. But as of now, the technology for solar isn't really there. Pointer says also, the majority of agricultural damage to the biosphere is caused by non-animal agriculture. Palm oil plantations are the biggest cause of forest deforestation. Back when America actually functioned as a country, we set up these laws that are pretty good. Or basically, for every tree a logging company cuts down, you got to plant a tree in response. So, America actually has much thicker forest areas than Europe does or other countries because of these laws. I keep telling people America wasn't always a dysfunctional shithole like it used to function. Like, this country used to be good, and then we just decided, it's racist to, have standards and things, so we just stopped doing that. The communists won, and this is what we're living in now. Point of Thought says, I have no idea who expected Joker 2 to be good. Well, I mean, people who were fans of the first movie, not knowing that they deliberately made this movie to be a slap in the face. Cockney Eastwood says, I saw people walking out of that. Apparently, it's mostly a musical. Shinseiki Evans says, AVGN did the Joker sodomy thing first and better. Yes, he sure did. Good old Mike Matei getting sodomized on camera. Robert Diaz says, Deadpool and Wolverine was better than Joker 2. Yeah, someone else in the Twitter thread says, imagine if you took the original Terminator and you had Arnold just get killed by some random guy who's never mentioned once, and he's the new Terminator. Yeah, imagine if they did that. Anyway, I had a lot of fun with the steamed hams thing, if nothing else. Okay. In Star Wars news, some new something or other called The Secrets of the Clone Troopers includes a first look at Sister, a trans woman clone trooper. Emoji trans flag. The description in the book reads, one of a kind expressed her gender identity differently than her fellow troopers. She figured she would have to hide who she was. Her brothers gave her the name Sister as a constant reminder that she belonged. Well, I'm sure glad to see that these, brutal, Nazi-esque stormtroopers are tolerant to trans people. Again, aren't they clone troopers? Aren't they all literally clones of Jango Fett? Why would one of them just decide to be a transgender woman? Like, if they were stormtroopers, at least I could understand that. Because they're like, just people, brainwashed by propaganda and, actually recruited. Do you not know what a clone means, Disney? It's astounding how this will be written about in business textbooks someday in the future. Presumably at the University of Peking when America falls and Chinese students are reading about the rise and fall of the American Empire. Yeah, it'll be in business textbooks, like how Disney took, a multi-billion-dollar brand and just flushed it down the toilet in the span of a decade. Remember back in the 90s when Disney was obsessed with having a boys brand they could market, and then they just bought one and then ruined it. I don't know what the end game here was, but it's not end gaming. Robert Diaz says the trans mindset would have been written out of clone DNA by the cloners. They would have considered it a defect. Again, aren't they all clones by definition? Aren't they all copies of the same guy? I mean, did Django Fett have some autogynephiliac fetishes that he kept from his wife and kid? Don't come in here, Boba. I just want to wear your mother's underwear and masturbate a little bit. Ponythroat says having a 41% attrition rate before you run to the enemy is kind of in character for stormtroopers. Well, these are clone troopers, sir, not stormtroopers. Ponythroat says they were clones in the prequels. In the originals, they were just conscripts. The clones were a bit crap, apparently. Yeah, that's why I was saying, it would make sense if they were stormtroopers because, they're just, guys who were press ganged into Imperial service. But it doesn't make sense for one clone and only one clone to be a trans woman. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay, so that does for my prepared remarks. If anybody has your last pieces to say, you can say so now. Let's see what's trending on Twitter right now. Apparently, men who stand up straight have dominant and antisocial behavior. So dare I say, it's a Chad trait to stand up straight. Good posture is for real men, so get to it. Northwood says perhaps that clone was molested as a child. Yes, perhaps. In which case, there's a certain Imperial drill sergeant that has to be addressed. Shinseki Evans says, I hunch. Yeah, try to not do that. Stand up straight and get the testosterone flowing. All right, I think that does it for my prepared remarks. For Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.